The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and FreedomSlips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, FreedomSlips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
I love the fanfare in that bumper from Nighthawk, our beloved leader. Rest in peace, may he rest eternally in peace. This is Dave and Mecky's Shiny Side Out. On Freedom Slips, on the number one listener-supported talk radio on the net. So push the donate button or subscribe to the archives for free. You can get yourself some great merch, and you can donate to the station on probably every medium humanly possible, and you could even walk to the address and just hand them cash. Don't send cash in the mail. Money orders, cash money, cash money that's green. Okay, so yes, get some great merchandise because that helps you and helps the station. You can get a T-shirt, a mug, or anything else you like. And we also thank you very much for listening to Revolution Radio, and especially Shiny Side Out.
Oh yeah.
See the Australian accent I put on that.
The crowd, the one goes crazy. Yay! Hurrah! Yay!
The normally sedate Earth crowd goes wild.
Yay!
All right, so we're halfway through show number 523.
320 and 500.
And I don't think we did that at the top of the last hour, but that's all right.
We did.
Did we?
Yeah.
That's
all good. That's 523. That's 2 hours. So it's 2,000. It's 1,000 if you were longer. So it's called about 1,200 hours worth of content thereabouts. Because a few were a bit longer, right?
Yeah, that's correct. We did all the 00 shows we do is like a 4-hour sketch.
Yeah. And I've got the show notes here in my archive. That's what I do.
In your archive.
In my archive, you've got the show, and there's a lot there, right? The longest.
True.
I don't think the flood myth is the longest. I think I don't even know. Maybe the moon. Actually, the moon is the article I wrote.
I'm going to call it the fiat currency and fractional reserve lending was the longest.
Actually, maybe absolutely.
Maybe.
So yeah, but there's so much material here that we can actually. So because the thing is, we don't just talk about this stuff, guys.
No.
We actually compile show notes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now we do a lot of research. A lot of the research, admittedly, is on the internet, but we like to cross-reference and verify. And sometimes you can only find certain things on the internet. I once found this for sale. I found this before we start going on, because I want to talk about the method for a little bit. I found this diary of a lady. And she had undertaken some research into I guess it was past lives or reincarnation,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was her original journal. I saw it online.
Oh yes.
And unfortunately, it cost $5,000. Well, I don't know about you. I don't have that kind of cash lying around.
Yeah. You don't have a lazy $5,000.
No, not lazy $5,000. But I do like to get. I do like to go to the primary sources. I do like to go and get the books if I can. Just because you get the book, and you get the intent of the author. If it's transcribed on the internet, mistakes might happen, etc. Same goes with primary sources when we talk about really ancient stuff. I like to go to the translations, not the interpretations. I want to go to the widely accepted and academically accepted translations of the cuneiform text, for example,
mm-hmm.
right? I like to go and look at that, and then compare it to other translations. So we compare, for the epic of what was it? Not Gilgamesh. It doesn't matter. But the last one we talked about. No, it wasn't that. But that's okay. We looked at we looked at a couple of translations,
mm-hmm.
and we took the one that had the most scientific kudos, where the people said, okay, well, this is really well done.
Oh, that was Sumerian text.
Sumerian text, correct. I can't remember. Enuma Elish.
Enuma Elish, yes, right.
And so you go to the experts, because I can't read.
And my Sanskrit, mate, I'll tell you, it's terrible. So we we found a university who had been perpetually evolving the language, and they even had the way that all of the vowel sounds were made. So each one of the sounds that each one of the characters makes. And so, yeah, they had the most broad knowledge of it, and it was the most accepted. So we used that for our translation.
Yeah, and we do like to go into detail, right, and understand really drill down. You know, people said, you know, oh, the Romans built this and the Romans built that. Then you look at the
Jupiter Temple. Maybe that's what they said.
Yeah. You look at the surrounding history. You look at, really? Well, why didn't they do it anywhere else? Why did they pour concrete everywhere else and only build the Jupiter Temple like they did there?
With stone.
Right? I mean, quite far away from anything, really, because the Jupiter Temple is in the middle of nowhere, essentially, right? Let's be very clear.
And who built the base of it?
And that's really the crux of it, right? These are cyclopean kind of ruins that you see there, right? And they have been repurposed. I mean, as a species, we are repurposers, right?
We build on top of the old town. That's right. Yeah, we're still doing it today.
Today, exactly. 100%. In fact, if you dig down in New York, 50 meters, 100 meters, whatever, or feet or whatever it is, you get to the different settlement layers, right, of the city.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is this: when Schliemann, the German amateur archaeologist, went to go and find Troy, which he did, following Homer's description in
the landmarks,
the Iliad. Yeah, he found it, but he found that it looks like there's 3, 4, 5 cities built on top of each other.
Yeah,
Rome is the same. Istanbul, all the big cities, all the major ancient cities. They go back. They can trace the history even to thousands of years, if you will. Certainly Rome, certainly Constantinople or Istanbul, right? Certainly places like Xi'an, right? And other places. Yeah, other places around the world. You will find that as you dig, there will be layers of other cities, of other settlements, and on it goes, right? And so we like to go to the primary sources, and same with this. Now, Dave, how far did you get through the?
Well, I've sent you a message in the chat. And
I didn't look at, of course.
and I actually got through all of the complicated Indian names.
Look at you, huh? Champion or what?
Well, I would have offended almost everybody, but what is a time well? And on my notes, I sent you a copy of the updated notes, by the way.
Oh, nice.
And it's page 35.
Nice. What is the time well? Here we go. I got you. Now this is around this. Dave shared with you a story last time around potentially 8 American soldiers that suddenly disappeared in Afghanistan. Yes. Right. So that just give you the preamble here, right? And in the case, so they made the discovery. It is alleged on a scout mission in Afghanistan, and they discovered a Vimana in a cave, a flying machine, as you might recall, right? An Indian flying machine. But the thing with this one, it seemed to be that it was caught in a strange temporal loop, right? Until now, it seemed that the 8 American military soldiers just disappeared. Essentially, to put it elegantly, maybe sucked into a time well when they tried to move the ship from its position. Now, what is a time well? And again, take this with a grain of salt. This is a tinfoil hat zone here, right? We got absolutely nothing to substantiate any of this.
Keep your arms inside the vehicle.
Yeah.
No flash photography.
No hard evidence. Zero. And if it was Dr. Ruth Rayner's journal, by the way, Dave.
That's right.
That I found. Anyway, so the time well encasing the Vimana. So it appears to be an electromagnetic radiation gravity field, which was first postulated by Einstein as the unified field theory, and long rumored to be behind the infamous American World War II experiment in teleportation called the Philadelphia experiment, that in 1943, like the events occurring in Afghanistan today, likewise caused the sudden disappearance of U.S. soldiers. Now, there is some evidence around the Philadelphia experiment. So it seems to have taken place. And it does seem to have produced an effect which is observed in the Bermuda Triangle, like a green haze, and the water, strange color.
The ship, that's right.
Yeah, and
And
it
then
was just
whooshka.
a very look. Was it a time translation device? I mean, what the Navy tried to do is make the ships invisible. That was the
intention.
Give them some kind of cloak field, if you will. If you watch Star Trek, you know what I mean, right? But apparently it catastrophically backfired. They even made a movie out of it. And again, some people that have survived or allegedly survived this incident told us all about it. And the movie is based, even though it's been fictionalized to some extent, on those experiences.
I just want to elaborate a little bit. So if you've heard about or seen any photos of the crew on board half in and half out of a sheet of metal or the decking or a bulkhead, and that was what one of the description was. And I think they captured that rather well. But because of the disorientation that was alleged that the people experienced, not very many of them were well mentally. One, from the PTSD. Two, not many. Some had to be put down because you couldn't be saved, and they were screaming in agony, right? Being half stuck on as part of the ship. Yeah. So, like I said, I say this alleged because we don't have the ship. The ship was a fishing vessel converted to military vessel that was, appeared up the coastline at the same time as its disappearance. It appeared somewhere else, came back again, and all, if the guys moved, they ended up being part of the ship. So would you call it a success? Well, there was some lessons learned probably, and if they've had any way of refining it, who knows, don't know, then that would have been looked at. But this is the same thing where we have a technology. The Russians experimented with making ions at the front of the plane to expand the air around it to try and make a bubble to make them go faster. So electricity, Mackie, when it's the only tool you've got, you work it for everything it's got.
Well, that's true. And just to a point you made earlier, was it a success? So let's be very clear here, right? From a scientific standpoint, if something happens, if you get an effect of any kind, that's a success.
Yep.
Right? Now, even even if it's a negative effect, right, which you might otherwise term a failure, it's not. Only if nothing happens. If you conduct a scientific experiment and nothing happens, well, that's a failure.
That is a failure. You turn the machine on, nothing happens. Turn it off, nothing happens. Done. Okay, well, that's a wrap, guys.
That's it. That's right. But look, but as far as Vimanas are concerned, there are ample references, also followed by fairly detailed explanations and quite intricate construction designs, as well as energetic solutions, and they're found in many Hindu writings, among which the most important is the Vimanika, or, in reference to Vimana Shastra, Vimanika Shastra, where it is stated that the Hindu Vimanas had the capacity to fly with a great speed through the terrestrial atmosphere, underwater, through the oceans, and also in outer space. Now, you can dismiss this, of course, if you wish, as science fiction, albeit a very, very, very early form of science fiction, right? However, some of the things that are being described are reminiscent of what actually occurred or is transpiring today. Not just in ancient Hindu texts, but in ancient texts and ancient legends and fairy tales all around the world. Anyway, while researching the Vedas, which are the ancient Indian texts, which included around 50 episodes of the Mahabharata, Sir Desmond Leslie concluded that the ancient chariots or flying machines called Vimanas were actually anti-gravitic vehicles, or anti-gravity vehicles, if you will. And some of the weapons, the Brahma weapon, for instance, could well have been nuclear bombs or death rays. Descriptions in the Vedas of the resulting carnage were reminiscent of Hiroshima. In fact, that's true. The hair and nail would fall out. People tried to wash themselves. Elephants and trees would be picked up like toys, thrown around, in the air, if you will. It is also claimed that a few years ago, and this is really the Ruth Rayner diary I tried to get my hands on, the Chinese discovered some Sanskrit documents in Lhasa in Tibet. Okay, so the Chinese annexed Tibet, liberated it, as they put it, and sent them to the University of Chandigarh to be translated. And Dr. Ruth Rayner happened to be there, said at the university that said recently that the documents contain directions for building interstellar starships. their method of propulsion, she said, was anti-gravitational and was based upon a system analogous to that of lagima, the unknown power of the ego existing in man's physiological makeup, a centrifugal force strong enough to counteract all gravitational pull. According to Hindu yogis, it is this lagima which enables a person to levitate. Now, see, I've always maintained, right? Again, don't forget, this is a tinfoil hat zone, right? But I've always maintained, Dave, that ancient civilizations, or even alien civilizations, or ancient alien civilizations, would probably, or likely, be different in kind to us. So they would be using different building methods. They would be using different energy sources. They would be using different communication methodologies. I mean, just because we've developed along a certain way doesn't mean someone else has to develop along the same way. Now, we started digging up coal, right? We started to drill for oil and all that wonderful stuff, right? What if you were part of a civilization that never went through the carbon stage, for argument's sake? What if you by some, because again, radioactivity was discovered by a fluke. And Marie Curie and her husband both paid with their life for the discovery of radioactivity. And it took a while before we actually got any use out of it, before we understood what we had. But there's no reason why that couldn't be the first step. In fact, the electric engine predates the internal combustion engine.
If we didn't have phosphorus, we wouldn't have worked it out.
Well, there's that as well.
You got to think about that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of dominoes that have to be aligned for us to go down a certain path, right? And this is really, really important. So and this is now talking about a source of energy, if you will, or a power that is internal to us. Now we do know, and I want to just spend a couple of moments on this. We do know that yogis or any, I guess, ascetic masters are capable of quite amazing feats, not of illusion, but of actual, physical stamina, physical endurance. And there are stories of monks or, I guess, deep meditation, practitioners levitating. We have those stories. There's stories of again, Tibetan as well as Nepalese monks, etc., being able to move large boulders with the use of sound. So there was a parabolic shaped bowl indentation in the ground.
And they're chanting.
Yeah, they would place. Yeah, exactly. They would place the rocks in that bowl, if you will, and they would then levitate up the mountaintop, like Dave said, and through the chanting and the use of musical instruments. Right. So they would create a wall of sound, essentially, which could then, I guess, move the rocks as an elevator would. And we know this is possible because we are, in fact, levitating substances with sound. Now,
that's right.
You have to understand, though, something is very, very important. So we think of the air as nothing. So the air is a very dense soup. The air we live in is like we're at the bottom of an ocean of air. Right, the higher up you go in the atmosphere, the thinner it gets until it thins out to virtually nothing, right, and you suffocate. But we are at the bottom, so it is quite thick. So if you move your hand quickly through the air, you feel it, right? What do you feel? You feel the particles of air hitting your skin. That's what you feel. So, and if you can concentrate, frequencies into the air, you can get standing waves, right, or other phenomena, which will then more or less be solid. Like if there's a strong wind, Dave, right? It blows away houses. Yes, it does. It does, right? But it's wind, right? No, it's nothing. No. We this is the power of wind, and this is what we're using when we're using sound to levitate. Now, this power here, they're talking about the lagima, is quite different. It is like an internal power that we might be able to manifest with enough practice, right? And I know this is going into areas of philosophy and science and mythology that most people are uncomfortable with. But why? We know that amazing things happened in the past, and we can't explain them. Is this one of the possible explanations? Do we have that internal power? Can we cultivate it?
Well, right? Mickey, to be honest with you here, people who have demonstrated superhero-like powers, superpowers, like a car's rolled onto someone and they've got the ability to lift the car off them when you can't do it just normally.
Yeah.
So I think we've got a lot more in us that we've, one, taught that it's all fables and imaginary. They're myths.
Yes.
Nothing's real. This is the real thing. Try and lift the car. I can't lift the car. Great. So now you know you can't lift it. Once you've got but in the situation where you need to achieve it and you actually are able to achieve it, you abandon that belief system to do it.
Right.
So this is what I think the monks had above everybody else, possibly the last to practice it in modern times. Yeah. And
now,
they were able to focus that energy.
Isn't that amazing, though? I mean, and look, ancient, and not just, I don't know if you're familiar with this term, there's something called a Merkaba. A Merkaba is essentially a projection around your physical self. And think of it as your own little escape pod spaceship TARDIS, if you will, right? And if you're trained up enough, and if you've practiced enough, etc., the Merkaba can be a very powerful instrument indeed. You don't need any more planes or submarines or anything like that. The Merkaba, which is, I guess, let's call it this energy field around you, will take care of that. Okay. Now, can you get it? I don't know. Right. Dave. Oh, really?
Yeah. No, I'm not saying it on air, but I thought I'd let you know.
Oh, that's very interesting. And sometimes it's hard to put your finger on it. Like, I went for a walk.
My mother taught me something about being able to create a shield around yourself for bad energy, which you start with a single point of light in you, and you balloon it up so that it becomes a skin away from you, like you're standing inside an inflated balloon. Now, when Meki just said Merkaba there, I realized that's the same thing.
That's it.
And we can all do that.
Yes. And we all affect or can affect things at a distance, right? Maybe it's maybe they're Merkaba tendrils that reach out. So I walk a lot, especially recently, and I always walk fairly, pretty much the same route, which is boring, but I'm a creature of habit.
I'll be on my usual route.
On my usual route, just in case something happens, my wife knows where to find me. But I always walk past this one lamppost, and whenever I walk past, I'm in my own thoughts. I'm just thinking, whatever I'm thinking, but I'm not thinking about what's about to happen. And usually, when I do think about what's about to happen, it doesn't happen. But the light will invariably go out. The street light will go out. There's a very specific street light. It will go out every time I go past it. There's nobody around me. There's nothing. There's no car. Nothing. It's just me and the street light. And then after a little while, when I turn back, it turns back on again. Right? But it will always turn off when I go past it. And sometimes it doesn't turn on. It just stays off. And then the other night, another street light went out.
Oh.
A bit further along, right? So again, my point is, though, and again, this goes hand in hand with the poltergeist phenomena, right? Usually ascribed to young children that are distressed, for example, right? Where they can move or levitate objects.
There is a syndrome of that where it's the telekinesis, but you're unaware that you're the one doing it.
Correct. Correct. You have no control. It's a subconscious thing, right? You're consciously controlling it. But anyway, look. I just wanted to highlight that there is a possibility of looking at the world differently. And if you look at the yogic practices, or any of the ancient meditational and yoga practices that exist, they're pretty powerful. I'm doing yoga. I haven't done it for a little while now because I injured my foot, but doing yoga is an incredibly empowering thing to do. And I'm doing yoga. I think it's about a half hour I do, but it's called I don't know, power yoga or something or other. But it really puts you through your paces.
And it centers you, doesn't it?
Yeah, completely. And I'm not running, so I'm actually pretty much standing in the same spot on my yoga mat. I mean, I might move my feet or something, but at the end of that, I think it's half hour. I'm done. I'm spent. Right, and I can actually run 8 kilometers. Right, I can jog it. I can jog 8 kilometers. Right, which at my weight and age is not a bad thing. And I can cycle 30, 40 kilometers, no issue at all. But after half an hour of this yoga exercise, I'm done. I'm sweating. I'm dripping. Right, and it does. You're right. It does center you, and it also gives you a very strong core. Your balance becomes better. A whole bunch of stuff. So this is ancient stuff that people have been doing for a long time, right? and I think we have lost a lot of the know-how. We've lost a lot of the proper ways of doing it, I guess, and we've lost the actual intent and mindset to use it properly. But let's go back to Dr. Rayner. And what she said was that on board these machines, which were called Astras by the text, by the way, the ancient Indians could have sent a detachment of men onto any planet, according to the document, which is thought to be thousands of years old, the document that is. The manuscripts were also said to reveal the secret of Antima, the cap of invisibility, and Garima, which means how to become as heavy as a mountain of lead. So the opposite of anti-gravity, right? Vimana is a word with several meanings, ranging from temple or palace to mythological flying machines described in Sanskrit. From the ancient accounts found in the Mahabharata, we know that Vimana measured 12 cubits in circumference with 4 strong wheels. Apart from its blazing missiles, the Mahabharata records the use of its other deadly weapons that operated via a circular reflector. When switched on, it produced a shaft of light, which, when focused on any target, immediately consumed it with its power. Sounds like laser, really, right? Or heat ray. So it is a good bet that the weapons described on the Vimana in Afghanistan would attract the attention of foreign governments as well as the US government. Technology of some Vimanas are mentioned in some ancient Indian Sanskrit Vedas. The Yajur Veda quite clearly tells of a flying machine which was used by the Aswins, 2 heavenly twins. The Vimana is simply a synonym for flying machine. It occurs in the Yajur Veda, the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, the Bhagavata Purana, as well as in classical Indian literature. Dave?
Yeah, I just want to quickly bring something out here, and that was, you know, that thing where you get your friend, you have your elbows in against you with your hands up, and you get the person to put their palms under your elbows and say, "Just lift me up," and they kind of can, and then you go, "Try now," and nothing about you has changed except they can't lift you.
Yes.
That skill that we all have to make ourselves heavier.
Yes.
We all have it. We played like that as kids when we didn't believe it was impossible.
Yeah, that's right. There's definitely that.
Do you remember doing that? Because I remember doing that. We used to play with that all the time. And you just go, how can't I lift you up? You weigh nothing.
Yeah.
And Jimeki, you said that the interest here of going there by the US government. Do you remember the other point to make was in Antarctica when all of the world leaders decided they were going to go visit for some reason? Do you remember, like Prince Charles, and they had the American defense minister or whatever his name was? He visited. Remember so within a couple of months, all the world leaders came down to have a look at something. And I think I've uncovered that in a prior show, where the snow melt revealed what looked like an ancient civilization or something.
Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, at least a kilometer long. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So has there been more discoveries which they're keeping from everybody? I wonder. And most definitely so.
I want to say yes.
I'm glad you're on board.
Yeah, I'm boarding. 100%, mate. Absolutely.
So,
I have no doubt whatsoever.
Am I at least 20 passages?
Yes. Let me just double check. Yes, correct. 100%.
Excellent.
Uh-huh.
At least 20 passages in the Rig Veda, 1028 hymns to the gods, refer exclusively to the flying vehicle of the Asvins. This flying machine is represented as a 3-storied, triangular, and 3-wheeled object. It could carry at least 3 passengers. According to tradition, the machine was made of gold, silver, and iron, and had 2 wings. With this flying machine, the Asvins saved King Bijou, I sneezed, who was in distress at sea. Every scholar knows the Vaimanika Shastra, a collection of sketches of the core of which is attributed to the Bharatvaj, the wise around the 4th century BC. The writings of the Vena Manika Shastra were rediscovered in 1875. The text deals with the size and the most important parts of the various flying machines. We learn how they steered, what special precautions had to be taken on long flights, how the machines could be protected against violent storms and lightning, how to make forced landings, and even how to switch the drive to solar energy to make the fuel go further. The Bharatvaj refers to no fewer than 70 authorities and 10 experts of Indian air travel in antiquity. The description of these machines in old Indian texts are amazingly precise. The difficulty we are faced with today is basically that the text mentioned various metals and alloys which we cannot translate. We do not know what our ancestors understood by them. In the, oh, please do that one for me.
Oh, wow. Amaranga Sutradhara.
Thank you. 5 flying machines were originally built for the gods by Brahma, Vishnu, Yama, Kuvera, and Indra. Later, there were some additions. 4 main types of flying vimanas are described: the Rukma, Sundara, Tripura, Sakuna. The Rukma were conical in shape and dyed gold, whereas the Sundata were like rockets and had a silver sheen. The Tripura were 3-storied, and the Sakuna looked like birds. There were 130.
Just
Hold your horses! Nay!
So in South American sites, temples, etc., we did find gold figurines, stylized insects and butterflies and birds, as they were called, which look like nothing more than flying machines, V-shaped jet fighters, for example, right, with cockpits and steerage and rudders, which you don't really find on too many butterflies or birds.
No, they don't tend to have a vertical tail either.
That's right, but you know, why wouldn't you decorate your flying machine in this fashion? I mean, we do it today. People paint their machines, right? They paint faces on them, right? And they give them names, obviously, right? And you know, if you want to stylize it more, why not? Right? In fact, we are moving a lot more into nature to design our machines, right? Like a manta ray, like rays. You know, if you look at B-52 or any of those other,
the B-2, the B-2 looks like a manta ray.
Sorry, B-2. Yes, correct. Not a B-52. That looks like a really big old flying machine.
Plane.
Yeah, like a plane. Fixed wing, as it were. But yeah, no. So we look at nature now a lot more to design things for ourselves, right? And nature solved the problem of flight in many different ways. It solved it with wings, lighter bones, just gliding even. So there are feathers, but there's also skin. Other insects, for example, it's a very different kind of wing system, right? You get extremely fast-moving wings, usually 2 or 4 or more pairs,
and they even have stabilizing nubs.
Yes,
which they can operate at a different frequency to steer.
Yes,
completely. Yeah.
And again, but so again, if you come at the problem from different angles, you can solve the problem. The problem of flight you can solve this way, you can solve that way, you can solve any which way you want, really, right? And that's really important to understand. But yeah, sorry, go on. That's it. That's all I have.
So one of those styles in the dragonfly, for instance, remember that the insect wings aren't a solid bone. They're just inflated with liquid that goes solid. Yeah. And the membrane between is very, very brittle and fragile, but for its use is better than carbon fiber.
Yes.
And so they for the series Dune, the new movie, they recreated the wing of and basically had flying machines in the style of
the ornithopter.
Yes. And it wasn't possible until a scientist recently went, "Hey, actually, I can make one of those," and they have. They've made it just a quarter of an inch across. They've made a flying machine that has insect wings, that uses insect wings rather than rotational. Oh, extraordinary that they've been able to achieve this.
It's my wife's cousin at MIT that did that.
Really?
Yep.
Oh wow! Because I've been following these stories for quite some time now.
Yeah. I'm not making this up. He actually did.
Yeah. And look, so we could in the future see us with full size units of these, where the rotational wings and everything disappears, and we use maybe more organics. Let's see. Let's hope anyway if we get there. All right. So back to the text. There were 113 subdivisions of these four main types that differed. That's right. They didn't differ at all. They differed only in minor details. The position and functioning of the solar energy collectors are described in the Vaimanika Shastra. It says that 8 tubes had to be made of special glass absorbing the sun's rays. A whole series of details are listed, some of which we do not understand. The enormously syllabled word is there, as it's the same as one as Mekki had previously announced. Even explains the drive, the controls, and the fuel for the flying machine. It says that quicksilver and rasa were used. Unfortunately, we do not know yet what rasa was. The mercury thing was also mentioned. 10 sections deal with uncannily topical themes such as pilot training, flight paths, the individual parts of flying machines, as well as clothing for pilots and passengers, and the food recommended for long flights. There was much technical detail, the metals used, heat-absorbing metals, and their melting point, the propulsion units, and various types of flying machines. Extraordinary, Mekki, for a civilization that didn't have any flying machines, according to the West.
But the thing is, I believe that these ancient texts are surviving from a time well before what we call history.
Yes, I believe the same thing too.
And maybe many times translated, again, but or preserved. But recalling, these may just, funny enough, these might be textbooks from ancient times, right? Which are not very exciting at all, but it was just commonplace books that engineers had on their shelf, for example, right? Or what we would term engineers these days. So it's we have to break free of our linear mindset.
Yeah, or the in-flight magazine on the aircraft. The Assyrians used salt to preserve things, which is only designed so that you're calm during the crash. You just read the in-flight magazine; that'll sort you out.
Yeah.
That's a segment from Red Dwarf. The information about metals used in construction named 3 sorts: Somala, Soundalika, and Morthwicka. If they were mixed in the right proportions, the result was 16 kinds of heat-absorbing metals with names like Ushnabrara, Ushnarapa, Rajamalitrit, etc., which cannot be translated into English. I can barely even say them. The text also explained how to clean metals, the acids, such as lemon or apple, to be used in correct mixture, the right oils to work with, and the correct temperature for them. 7 types of engines are described with the special functions for which they are suited and the altitudes at which they best work. Now, back then, you would think you could just use the same engine for everything.
Well, yeah.
If this was fantasy.
Yeah.
Right? Even now we know that, the Aerospike is a good all-purpose thing, but you have an atmospheric rocket, and then you have a high altitude and space rocket engine. The 2 engines are different. Right? We couldn't have known it back then unless we were doing it. The catalogue is not short of data about the size of the machines, which had stories, nor their suitability for purpose or various purposes. This text is recommended to all who doubt the existence of flying machines in antiquity. The mindless cry that there were no such things would have to fall silent in shame.
And I think that's yeah, look, that's obviously the source. Now, and this is really important to understand. I mean, we barely scratch our history on this planet. We don't know. Most of us have forgotten what we've done, and most of us, couldn't even be bothered. I mean, we know what we know. We live in the societal construct that we live in, and that's all okay. But what if, as fantastic as it might be, we had contact in pre-ancient times, prehistoric times with alien civilizations? What if we ourselves were star travelers going to other solar systems? Going. I mean, depending on the technology employed here, right? Forget faster than light speed. Forget ion propulsion. Forget all of that. What if we could open wormholes? Like people talk about these gateways all the time in ancient times too, right? Amazing feats. I mean, these flying machines are, they might be equipped with the technology that lets you translate that kind of, distance in a blink of an eye, by folding space or by stepping outside of our 4-dimensional space construct into 5, 6, 7-dimensional space. Because if we could, I mean, think about, again, a piece of paper, right? You draw on the surface of a piece of paper 2 dots, and the only way you can connect them is through a line. That's the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. That we all learned that in math. Not true. Not true. You fold the paper and you punch a hole through the paper, and there you are. Your shortest distance between 2 points is nothing. The answer is 0. There's no distance between them, because you are now moving in a high dimensional space where you don't have to go through the intervening space. You're not going around it, you're not going under or over it, you're just stepping outside of it. You're no longer in that box, right?
If you're actively in your motor vehicle and you were able to hold on and secure yourself where you currently are, and then say with some kind of technology, this is technology doing this, and then the location you want to go to, you could see in the distance. What you do, you pull it towards you, and then you just let go of where you are. And now you're at the new place. You folded space without going anywhere. To an observer, it looked like you just shot across this reality. But in actuality, all you did was you pulled the new place to where you are to you, and then let go of the old one. The whole universe is elastic, and therefore you're not breaking any laws.
You're not even moving.
No,
is the point here. You're not even moving. Now, I've seen a few movies, and I think The Matrix does it really well, but a few like that. When Neo and Morpheus stand in this null space,
that's right.
It's all white, and then stuff just comes to them.
That's right.
Whoosh, right?
It even came from beneath.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, directionality is no longer even relevant. Time is no longer relevant, because if you step outside our 4-dimensional construct, and it must exist, because it's the only way you can stack something at a right angle to our 4 dimensions. It's in the 5th dimensional, 6th dimensional, 7th-dimensional space. How do we do it? Well, mathematically we can. In reality, we cannot, or at least not yet. It's like a drawn figure on a piece of paper trying to escape that piece of paper. That's what that is like.
Yeah.
Right?
So the people that were rumored and alleged to have worked on the Mars jump room program, where the materials were said to have been entangled and then split apart, and so they perpetually keep a connection between them. And when you go through the circle, through the hoop, it kind of looks like raining water, like flowing water, and then you just pop out at the other side, like in the Stargate, right? That is how that was supposed to work, and the gap between is in that quantum entangled world. but you're not actually in this environment.
Yeah, and I can't help wondering, what if we were actually traveling in those spaces, and maybe
fell out to this one.
Yeah, and see, this is where it gets interesting. I just spoke about let's call it the stick figure on a piece of paper that you draw, right?
Yes.
Like little pencil stick figure.
Mm-hmm.
Now, physically, it can't escape the paper.
Oh, yes.
It can't. Right? It can't. It's just there. There it is, right? I mean, I think our physical bodies are the same here. Like we like that little stick figure on the piece of paper. Our physical bodies, and this is why, I think it's such an important thing to understand as well. We can't escape this four-dimensional trap. This piece of paper we're stuck on, like a fly on fly paper, right? We're here. Nothing we can do about it. However, right, and this is critically important. If I imbue this, I don't know, I guess, lead pencil stick figure with a soul, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the soul, or like life energy that it has, or chi, whatever you're going to call it, has the ability to transcend the piece of paper. The physical lead pencil body cannot, but the soul can. I believe that we energetically inhabit our bodies as we do. It's a prison, as we've outlined elsewhere. And our inner core, whoever makes you, right? But this energy, it's very hard to put into words. That can transcend this physical world and move in the higher dimensions without any problem whatsoever, right? And that's why the mental training for monks, Buddhist monks, Hindu yogis, but also other religions and philosophies and ways of life is so important. You need to transcend your body in order to get further, right? And you will have the most profound experiences when you deprive yourself of all sensory inputs. Okay, it's almost like a distraction. Your body is distracted by light, sound, smell, touch, temperature, etc., etc. Virtually all of the ancient schools, all the ancient practices, all the ancient mystery schools and secret societies require you to go through either self-isolation in total darkness and ideally in a sensory deprivation tank if you can, or something similar. But it is required for you because you can't ascend, you can't get to the next level unless you do that, right? So I believe we can. It'll be hard. I mean, maybe we'll achieve a breakthrough and actually can do it in our physical bodies. I doubt it. That's me doubting it, right? But maybe. Right, but it's much more likely that it is going to be a mental breakthrough for each and every one of us, right? A mental breakthrough.
Yeah, I wonder how many would have the discipline, though.
And what do you notice these days? Our attention span is that of a goldfish.
What were you talking about?
Exactly. In ancient times, even in recent times, you know what?
Ancient times? You mean like a couple of years ago?
A couple of years ago, Newton, Einstein, and other great thinkers like that. You know what they had in common? And some of them actually verbalized this and gave us advice on it. You have to have the ability to shut yourself away and focus on one thing. That's what you have to be able to do. Focus on the problem at hand and just focus. Be mindful, right? And that's what all these yogic and meditation techniques train you to be in the moment. If you're not there in the moment in yoga, you will fall over. If you're not there in the moment when you do martial arts, you will get punched in the face. So we have these ancient techniques to focus our mind. Not many of us do it, and many of us are so distracted by reality TV and fast food and even faster cars that it's not even a thing anymore. It's no longer pursued, Dave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get you.
It's really up to us in many ways to rediscover our capabilities. And again, the Merkaba that I spoke of earlier, that Dave's mother, showed him how to create that for. So we have a practitioner of the Merkaba. So it's not just empty air and blah blah. This is actually something that you could achieve potentially for yourself, right? importantly. And do you ever feel that time flows at different speeds?
Completely.
I certainly, yeah, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it speeds up, sometimes it slows down, measurably so. Because I know when I travel distances, and if I've got a certain mindset, but it's almost like, those pictures that you used to look at that had like
The magic eye ones. Mm-hmm.
Magic eye. So if the harder you tried, the less likely you would be to see it. So you had to really relax your eye. And a lot of people didn't get that. What do you mean relax my eye? What are you talking about? I can't relax my eye. I'm looking at things. It's like somebody will punch you in the face. Oh, I see it. And they go, no, what are you seeing? What are you seeing? It's a ship. Why is the ship? I can't see a ship. So you have to relax your eye and see it through. It's almost like that. And you know what's funny about that, Dave?
What's that?
I'll tell you what's funny about that. A lot of experiences, and I don't know if you're the same way, right? But a lot of experiences have said you have to have a certain mindset before you can see.
Mm-hmm.
A UFO, for example, or anything like that.
That's right.
You must have I guess the best way to describe it is a relaxed mind. You have to relax your mind and accept the possibility, because if you don't, you won't see it. And it's a bit like that magic eye picture, right? I mean, it's not there. You look at it like a normal person, without that special technique of relaxing the eye, you will never see it. In a million years, you won't see it. And that's the best example I have of this very thing. These things, I believe, are going on around us all the time. I told you about this time I was stabbed in the neck, right? I was in a friend's place. I was stabbed in the neck. It was painful. I was just sitting on the couch. But that night, I think I coughed up quite a bit of blood.
Wow.
Right? So something stabbed me in the neck. I made a note of it, and certainly I mentioned it on the show. So I think there are things going on around us all the time. We just can't see them because we don't know how to look at them.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know, and I think in recent times, when I say recent times, less than last couple 100 years or 100 years even, especially with the advent of TV and computers, we are being dragged away from looking at it the right way. Because I believe, again, people that live closer to nature, like native peoples, etc., they see a lot more than we do. Not just the obvious. They can look at a track and say, "Oh, there's a bear," and he hurt his left foot or whatever, and he's limping, and he had acorns for breakfast or whatever. But more so, also the things that are hidden.
Like what about your children and the pets?
Bingo. Thank you. That's exactly where I was going. Your children, your pets, I believe their minds are sufficiently unindoctrinated to be able to see things. You can't really indoctrinate a dog or a cat. I mean, you can't really. You can't. You try, but it's hard because they just see the way they see them. Children too, especially young children, they will just stare into space, or they will. My son, he waves at the garden,
mm-hmm.
and he knows how to say goodbye. See ya. Why does he waves and see ya in the garden? There's nothing in the garden. I got a tiny garden to start with, right? There's nowhere to hide in my garden, literally.
Mm-hmm.
It's tiny, but he's waving, right? And other children, not just my son, other children, I saw it with my daughters as well, and they see something, and I have dim memories of being able to see things when I was a young child, and I have a very dim memory, and this might be a false memory. I don't put any money on it, of little people being able to see, and I mean tiny people, right? And I'm talking about tiny people in the garden sometimes, and I'm talking like the size of little toy soldiers type thing. Because we are then, as we grow older, and just in order to survive, we filter a lot of things out that are just no good to us at all to survive. If we could see them, it'd be a distraction. So it's a filter. Remember, my favorite example is that the guy in a gorilla suit that walks through a group of people.
Jeff the Gorilla, it's called.
Yeah, I mean, now that I've told you about it, I personally never knew about it, so I would just watch this thing on YouTube. I think it was YouTube, and I said, okay, just follow the red ball and count how many people pass it, because there are two balls, the red ball and the blue ball, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how many times is the red ball passed?
Or a white ball, whatever the ball is, it's not black. That's right.
And I thought, exactly. And I thought I was very clever. I counted all the time. I was sure
that you were right. That's right.
Yeah. So I was so proud of myself. And then it came to the end. Did you see the gorilla? And I said, what?
What gorilla?
No, it's 17 times the ball. Ask me the right question. It's been 17 times that the white or whatever the ball was passed. 17 times. That's the answer. No.
I'm right. I'm right. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's how many it is. No, that's not. No.
No, that's not the question. And then you go, oh, what a lot of croc. Did you notice the gorilla? That was no freaking gorilla. So you watch it again.
And
you don't. Yeah, go on.
And there's the gorilla in plain
There's the
sight.
gorilla.
Not only is there a gorilla, but it stands in the middle looking at you.
Yeah. But you're
Same
so
video.
focused
Same
on the
video.
ball.
I know.
And it's you really have to see it for the first time to be taken in by it, I think, right? But it's an astounding thing to realize just how much we filter out.
Yeah.
I reckon all of you out there in Listenerland would have seen this music. You would have seen UFOs. I reckon there might be an alien sitting right next to you right now, or ghost, or Bigfoot, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
all of them are playing cards. Take care.
Yeah.
This is Shiny Side Out. The end of the episode 523. Stay tuned for Jer Bear's awesome show After Hours, and be a part of it. Call in and talk to Jer Bear online.